What you're about to see is hopefully one of the most unique pieces of media to exist on the intriguing weaving of fascinating and almost hard to believe information I call spiritual animal phenomena. While animals play a main role in the story, it's the phenomena and the revelations behind it all, and those mysteries and spiritual aspects that I find the most Truman. Our animal brethren are clues in the matrix. Even the cherubim are made up with some of their parts or likeness. Studying the Creator by studying creation. Learning about the spirit realm, or the invisible, by the natural.
Oh, me? I was just thinking. Let's get right into it. Can some animals be angels? Can some be demon-possessed or employed by warlocks? Are skinwalkers or animalities real? And did humans used to be able to talk to animals in a lost secret language? This and more fascinating phenomena where animals seem to be hacked into, hijacked, and taken over by an angel or a spirit being and then used to do something here on Earth. Influenced animal avatars. Also, aside from just about every culture mentioning gods coming down in the form of animals, animal-human hybrids, or animal humanoids. Let's start with some recent intervention that seems spiritual. Like this horse that saved a bunch of humans from a fire that didn't even know was happening. The horse came, knew there was a fire happening, kicked out the window, alerted the other people to the fire, and the people evacuated the building and were saved. Also, like this harbor seal, guardian angel who saved this diver from drowning. Or a dog who came up and saved a street preacher right when somebody was about to attack him. A random phantom dog just came up, got in between them, started barking at the guy, and chased him off. Angels using video game controllers to influence Earth. Fascinating dolphin rabbit holes about saving humans many times. Greeting astronauts. Being in the military. Probably all related to why it was illegal to communicate with them and why there was tons of real LSD dolphin experiments that you probably actually don't want to look up. Also, interesting use of animals in warfare, another fascinating rabbit hole you could get lost in. The concept of trained animal militarized beings. Birds and other animals' use in warfare throughout history got interesting. Even Samson's warfare strategy with foxes and fiery tails, pretty genius. By the way, Samson was a supernatural birth, just like John the Baptist, if you look into it. And ironically, he also used a jawbone of a donkey to perform a miraculous slaying of 1,000 Philistines. Speaking of donkeys and jawbones, and maybe related on an esoteric thread, there was actually a talking donkey in the Bible that saved somebody from being mowed down by an angel with a fiery sword who was standing in the middle of the road, which is also another mystery. This Shrek-like donkey apparition all of a sudden talking, and then he talks back before he even realizes that an animal's talking to him. Whales are another creature that have also demonstrated sentience a bunch of times. The gentle, loyal giants of the sea, the elephants of the deep. So aside from literal birds or other animals learning words or apes learning sign language or ways to communicate, ancient threads of animals actually talking, even going back to the serpent in the Garden of Eden, talking animals. Animals and humans did used to be able to communicate with each other with an original language. In fact, the entire pre-sin Eden world is fascinating, as is the whole pre-flood antediluvian world. Much different world than we live in now. So this whole concept of animals talking and then losing their ability, or losing their desire, or being just completely afraid of man and retreating. Some maybe still have the ability under certain circumstances to talk possibly, as crazy as it sounds. Also lots of talking serpents or dragons in every culture ever. Speaking of Adam and Eve, does naming something give it a soul? Kind of an interesting thought. Names having a power of their own. But also aside from authority, there was a lot of layers of reasoning of why God brought animals before Adam and had him name them. It goes really deep actually. But this cyclical come around to the end of time, we see this restoration with the animal kingdom where humans and animals are friends again. And even animals are friends with each other, which I personally think is really cool. Also, you see in the millennial reign, the behavior of the animals will be different. The wolf will lie with the lamb, which is also a Mandela effect. Some people remember the lion will lay with the lamb. Honestly, they're probably confusing the fact that Jesus is the lion and the lamb. But Isaiah probably always said the wolf will lay with the lamb. Also, the Mandela effect is probably more like the Mandala effect, since it's all related to frequency warfare, mandalas being a form of sigil frequency. You can check out more about this on my last Unpod on my YouTube page, Language Comes from the Stars. So aside from animal language, are they in heaven? The Bible does mention horses and others. Also imagine being Noah and literally having all these huge, awesome beasts come to you for safety. Exotic and wild animals of all kinds, some that you've never seen before, all coming to you knowing they can trust you, and that somehow you'll protect them. Intriguing. as is some layer of a hidden sentience that maybe remains among certain species that have distanced themselves from humans. And the lost animal language, the original form of Hebrew, the key to creating the simulation. This also can be done with sign language, an original sign language, symbols with your hands, sigils in hand form, tapping into the brain encoding and chemistry and instinct of animals and humans. Plug on my page about Crocodile Dundee controlling animals with that symbol and how to control invisible energy. And also the language of the birds is actually, aside from actually being able to know things from paying attention to the birds, is an esoteric thread about a lost ancient language. Probably won't be able to find a lot about it online though. Either way, very clear that animals can and are used by God in the spirit realm very often, aside from the animals' own will themselves. Again, even one of the judgments in Revelation, we see a gang of animals or beasts of the field come out to wreak shop on mankind. Also, owls and other animals used as monitoring spirits and in league with the dark side. We even see pigs in the Bible being demon-possessed and the ability for animals to be possessed by spirits, beings, and demons. This is a real thing, maybe related to octopus intelligence, which you can find on my Thought Experiment compilation. The incredible intelligence that octopuses display, and maybe Nephilim creations, is a legitimate thought. And you may or may not have known that sharks upside down look like demons. Go ahead and take a look. Hopefully the harbor seal guardian angel's nearby, or your sentient whale protector, which again, Jonah being eaten by the great fish, and then transporting him to a land, all under control by God. There is also the formidable Boston Dynamic robot dogs and the robo-DARPA animals like the insect bees that The Simpsons showed you like 20 years ago, bee drones that spy on people. Trans animals like transhumans, cyborgs, robotic mixtures, and the like, or AI becoming like Dr. Dolittle and being able to communicate with all animals, especially now that it's operational and running on its own. Who knows what it actually knows? Or AI could help you become a Dr. Dolittle type god to talk to animals yourself by translating the electrical impulses into speech patterns and translating for you. Also, there's an interesting video on here that shows that a lot of animal noises, when you speed them up or slow them down, are actually all the same. The encoding of the higher civilization is recognizable. Again, we're seeing the common theme of the merging of science and technology and the spirit realm. Even canine telepathy tests are being ran that kind of remind me of the LSD dolphin experiments, and all sorts of other animal-like experiments, either too dark to mention or done in secret. Also probably tying into the concept of skinwalkers and animalities, warlocks, or people initiated with the ability to transform themselves into animals for a time or a period to do things, spy, or whatever. Lots of legends of skinwalkers and animalities. Who knew when you were a kid playing Mortal Kombat that this was a real thing? But I doubt any of that is the match for the giant flying eagle in the book of Revelation who flies, soaring across the skies, talking, preaching the gospel to all of mankind. A giant eagle. By the way, speaking of eagles, a cool quote about why the story of Jesus is told with the lion, eagle, ox, and man. They all represent him. The man was God's incarnation as man. The bull was the red heifer sacrifice Jesus made on the cross. The eagle is the ascension he made when he resurrected and ascended into heaven. And the lion will be what's coming soon when he comes back for the return of Christ, the second coming as the Lion of God. Lion, eagle, ox, and man. That's why the throne of God is surrounded by the tetramorph of those four animals. Everything points to Jesus, who should be your foundation to explore all of these fascinating mysteries. In close, one more cool code about the original Hebrew alphabet containing a monkey as one of the characters, and you wonder why. Esoterically, it's supposed to be because monkeys are so close to humans in resemblance, but there actually is the difference, and that's what God is focusing on, the difference of the brute beast animal nature and the higher sentience of mankind. Yet you see this de-evolution of mankind becoming very brute beast animal-like, only focusing on the flesh and the base instinct nature. Remember that you were created to be in the image of God, a higher being. Stay flying with the Most High. See you next time on The Savage Truth.
The reason why cows are sacred all over the world ties into the cherubim. Remember, it's one of the four with the bull. Phrases like holy cow, holy moly, which is Molech. Holy Molech is, a bull god that they sacrifice children to. And this sacred cow theme is also why it was the first thing the Israelites did was build a golden cow. Think about this. They're seeing all these signs and wonders. Moses is literally on top of the mountain getting the law, and for some reason they want to build a golden cow to worship it. Holy moly, holy cow, origin. Also, the womb being in the shape supposedly of the bull, the Taurus, the age of the beginning of mankind was the age of Taurus. And Aleph, the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, the pictogram is the bull. Apos, the bull in Egypt, Osiris in the afterlife being associated with this, and also Zeus taking the form of a bull in mythology. I wonder why UFOs, for some reason, need cows. In the UFO mutilation abduction scenarios, they always need cow parts for some reason. Also, in Hebrew culture, the red heifer sacrifice, also tying into this with the cow. Steak, top offering and favorite meal of many, probably tying all into this. And one of the weirdest things, what I talked about, the ancient breakaway civilization continent of Mu, that's supposedly what cows say. I find the psychology of drinking milk interesting. Babies are fed milk by their mothers in order to gain nutrients and grow. Then we grow up and decide to look for another animal, like a cow, to start drinking its milk like we're baby cows. Which of course has become fake and filled with all sorts of matrix stuff like plaster and other garbage. Then even made fake with other types of fake soy milk and other types of matrix garbage. But to even level up on that, Bill Gates now wants you to drink good old cockroach milk. Not even an attempt to be funny or gross, although it is both. They say it's high in protein and other nutrients, and pound for pound, the healthiest milk. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to be conned into drinking any of that roach milk, Bill. You can drink a nice warm glass of get the freak out of my face. Imagine you've never seen a kangaroo before in your entire life. You have no idea that it existed. But you definitely know about spiritual things. And one day you walk outside in the woods or something and you see this demonic beast. You're telling me that you wouldn't think that this thing is a demon. Anyway, all sorts of animals that we have never seen before. Like this bitterbong right here. Also rare ones like white albino deers. Sheephead fish with human teeth. Also legends of people being turned into fish, which this kind of looks like. Or people being turned into animals, or hybrids, or even trees, or statues. Weird old world. Bestiaries, part of the old world, will quickly do top 5 bestiary animals, legends of animals that maybe exist that you've never heard of. Supposed rare, mystical creatures of the past, or hidden somewhere in the present. Anyway, people swore that these were real. Number 1, the killer unicorn bunny, the Almiraj. Kind of related to the jackalope. Also kind of like the Lord of the Rings bunnies that would travel really fast but way more vicious. Also, these killer unicorn bunnies have also been referred to as the Wolpertinger before. Number 2, the Kappa, these turtle-like beings whose head, I guess, are kind of empty. And this probably is what Koopa is based off of, the Kappa, these turtle beings, and maybe even tying in with the Ninja Turtles possibly. Number 3, the Groot slang, an elephant snake-like being. An elephant snake being called the Groot slang, which is probably where Marvel got Groot from. Kind of interesting. Number 4, the Tatzelworm, a cat snake-like being. Kind of reminds me of the Cheshire Cat. Also, cat-snake hybrid beings are also common even from ancient Egypt. The eyes being slit like reptilians, and even demon manifestations where people sort of manifest in slithering, cat-like manifestations. The Tatzelworm, a cat snake-like being. And number 5, the Bonnicon, a bull-like horse, a huge beast with the defense weapon of anal pepper spray. Good old bio-warfare, interesting defense. Lots of animal warfare uses, like tusk-fitted, bladed war elephants, where they would put blades over their tusks and train them in warfare. Sounds pretty formidable. Or orcas trained to sink ships, maybe. Either way, there's one thing that there's no defense for sure, and that's when God sends 42 bears to just come maul you out.
Animals breaking the fourth wall of the Truman Show, revealing the spiritual core of animals. Suddenly losing their fear and asking for help. Or other rabbit holes like the concepts of omens and Herod Agrippa seeing a very specific owl right before he died, and he knew seeing this owl meant that he was going to die, and he did, exactly when he said he would. There are many legends of omens like this about seeing a certain type of bird or other animal at a certain time or place and it being an omen to doom. Sometimes it can even be a good thing. I wonder if this ties into the emergence of the new and final pope with the Pope prophecy also at the exact same time of the dire wolf re-emerging, and how the wolf is the ultimate form of apostasy, possible false prophet tie-in. Or the weird mystery of the encoded story about Elijah and the bears, which I'll come back to in a minute. 2 bears just supernaturally coming out of the woods and deboing a crowd of people. I just did a video about the spiritual nature of animals and weird things like this. This is just deeper into it. Kind of like gators showing up to ring the doorbell of your house, and then lying in wait for you. Animal group names are interesting, by the way, like a group of ravens or crows being called a murder. A group of gators is actually called a congregation. Maybe they just wanted you to go to church. Reptilian demon church where you're going to be there. Or this other manipulation you may have seen on here about how they just beg for help, supposedly mimicking a human, waving human-like hands in the water like you're about to save somebody from drowning. Reptilian manipulation. Also, a group of salamanders is called a congress, and it's specifically for the purposes of breeding. Good old demon breeding grounds and demon metaphors hidden right into the words. Good glimpse on politics as a whole, and who really runs the matrix. The spiritual theme of reptilians leading the world astray. Also, a group of rhinos is called a crash, well, because ultimate crash out mode, obviously. And a group of lemurs is called a conspiracy. Kind of like talking snakes, which again I covered in my last video, but I'd like to add on a few points. This quote here about a snake speaking in the voice of a man, as well as this verse from the book of Jubilees about all animals speaking to each other with one original language, like I said, but there's a verse for that. Also weird is the animal behavior of late, as the simulation in the Matrix get ready to shut down probably. Also, I saw a pack of bucks. There was about 7 bucks, fully antlered, fully horned bucks all together, which is very rare. And then I see on TikTok other people have seen this as well. Weird. Especially in light of the Obama movie and the deer and the bucks. Leave the world behind, huh? Also, deeper into Adam naming the animals, how did he even know to do that? Speaking of programming, think about the mental quantum computer programming Adam was created with for him to even be able to have this ability to just invent words or have words to know about, to build and create with this language to even name all the animals. Kind of interesting. Speaking of programming, this verse from Isaiah is even more fascinating about how God whistles for the flies and for the bees. Another mystical sound weapon, God whistling and having the power to send these armies of bees, locusts, insects, flies, really whatever he wants. You see lower versions of this through shamans, witch doctors, and even through fiction of supernatural items like a whistle, the ability to control animals. Also, if you follow me and you see the bee symbol, just click on the video. I'm cooking it up right now. It's the ultimate rabbit hole. Further into the Mandela effect about the wolf will lay with the lamb instead of the lion lay with the lamb. I bet you don't remember the verse saying this, about how the leopard will lie with the goat. Or it does say the calf and the lion will eat straw together. It also says the cow will feed with the bear. Do you remember any of those? Also, one cool thing I do remember, it says that infants or babies will stick their hands right into the nests and dens of the vipers and snakes, and instead of attacking them, they'll just be like, "What's up, bro?" Back to the bears. Did Elisha curse them in the name of Yahweh and summon bears to kill a group of children? Well, if you look at the Hebrew word, it wasn't actually children. The same phrase is used to describe King Solomon when he's in his 20s. And also, if you pay attention to details, unless you're toxically trying to insult God, you'll see there was a group of 42 of them. This isn't just random 42 unsupervised, unparented children that happen to be chasing a prophet and harassing him. These are at minimum teenagers, gangsters, all pursuing an old man, 42 of them at least. And really, they're mocking the Lord, saying, "Go up, baldy." The reason Elisha is bald at all is because he shaved his head in sackcloth as a form of mourning for losing his mentor Elijah, who had just gone up in the fiery chariot. Which is exactly what these rambunctious gang is mocking him for, saying, "Go up, baldy, go up. Go up like your mentor Elijah. Have God scoop you up and do a miracle in front of us. You want to be prophet, just get out of here." Basically, they're mocking the Lord, which is the reason for this mystery, but it's really an encoded mystery. You have to pay attention to the details and the numbers. 2 she-bears coming and mauling 42 youths of Israel. This is all about the 42 months of the Great Tribulation and other nations coming into Israel that will maul the youth of Israel. It's all an encoded parable spoken of in the other prophets. Also being a picture of the tribulation, you see the same themes of Elisha or Elijah in sackcloth and ashes, which is what it says in Revelation that the 2 witnesses will prophesy in sackcloth and ashes. Again, in the code, bears represent Gentile nations. So the 42 months of the tribulation, Gentile nations coming in for 42 months. Everything is an encoded story that really actually happened. Also, God with that ultimate mama bear, cocaine bear, black Air Force One energy for insulting his name and coming against his chosen. And in another layer, because everything is encoded and told in the stars as well, you see the two bears. Not just two bears, the two she-bears. It's the Little Dipper and the Big Dipper. They're actually bears. And they're specifically known as she-bears as well when they're referenced in the Bible. And also with this constant redefining over time into occultic things and toxic things, this is where the original sun wheel supposedly came from, was watching the North Star following the Dipper as the planetarium dome turns around us. The beginning and end always reflects itself. At Babel, you see one of the judgments, and one of the apocryphal books, is that some of the beings were turned into cryptids basically. Mixtures of animals or certain animal-like beings. Even the origin of mermaid and sirens having to do with this. Also, you see the Anunnaki were doing this genetic mixing of humans and animals. That is starting to come back around now at the end of time. The Nephilim activity re-emerging. I had even mentioned one time how the axolotl is being studied for its powerful regeneration power, along with its lots of other cool properties you can look up. Become a real-life Wolverine. It's almost alien how axolotls sometimes eat their friends' or family's arms or limbs because they know that they'll just grow back. It's like an unlimited food hack. Pretty bizarre, as are all animal, spiritual things the more you look into it. In close, whether you love possum core, owl core, or you just want to make some friends with crows, animals definitely are a cool reflection of the Creator. By the way, don't go too far down the rabbit hole where you think every animal you see is a monitoring spirit. But the ultimate restoration, nature core, the New Jerusalem, everything being in shalom because of the power of the Lion, the Lamb of God. Pursue Yeshua. See you next time on The Savage Truth.
Life in the Matrix, where you can find cocaine hippos, or underwater cities built by octopi. Scientists have discovered Atlantis, or underwater octopus cities that they built, complete with homes, neighbors, rivalries, and complete cultures.
Anyways, this is where the experiment gets interesting now. Let's combine the underwater thought with the gray alien thought, and do you get an octopus? These supremely highly intelligent beings are literally thought to be aliens from another planet by some scientists. They've been known for escaping from sealed jars by opening them with their tentacles, solving puzzles, frequently outsmarting captors, and they've even broke their way out of aquariums and made their way back into the ocean. They've been known to shoot water jets to shut off light switches. They have mimicry ability to change colors with flashing patterns and shapeshift. And each tentacle has its own consciousness to go along with its 3 hearts and 9 brains and double memory system. So, yeah. What was Organism 46B in Antarctica anyway? Some sort of super version of one of these things.
Or you can find out that peacock feathers have lasers, and that their feathers can actually emit laser beams, which have been measured by scientists. Or in Florida, and of course it would be Florida, deploys robot rabbits in their latest effort to control an invasive Burmese python species. Army of robo-bunnies. Also, squirrels are becoming carnivorous. New research shows that they are actively hunting other animals. And of course this would be the California squirrels.
What you got going on here, Kyle?
I got a squirrel stuck to me.
What, he bite you?
Nothing beats a Savage Truth video. Every video feels like a holiday. And there is the good old great-eared nightjar, which looks like a baby dragon. Good old Life in the Matrix. How about the supernatural bee army, which again could be good or bad? Lots of stories, mainly from Africa, about arrests where bees literally handcuffing people around their eyes,
sometimes around their hands and other places. Now, some of these could be fake, obviously, but there are so many stories about this where the witch doctors control or they're sent by God. And honestly, in other countries, especially Africa, stuff like this is common. Several arrests have been contributed to bees, controlled attacks and confessions, and bees interrupting political gatherings and events. Also, there are trillions of bees in the world, and this idea of a plague. God can swarm up any kind of a plague of anything. Let's examine how witch doctors claim bee control, a special relationship with insects, and that knowledge being passed from father to son about witchcraft controlling bees. Getting the bees to do their bidding, like Solomon did to demons, I guess. By the way, it's not just bees that witch doctors control. Birds, crows, animals of all kinds, wolves, owls, etc. God's army, God also employs things like this. You've seen how he sends locusts and other plagues like he did in Egypt, but in Africa, there was an army of cobras that attacked a group of terrorists, Boko Haram, who had a bunch of Christians rounded up, by the way, and then bees joined in the attack. And this has happened more than once, documented. Ethiopian, legends about bees defending God's stuff. Also, one of the articles I mentioned was, basically it was gunpoint, firing, execution style situation. Jesus appeared to some of the would-be victims, and then snakes appeared out of nowhere to attack and save them. They later said Jesus told them it was going to be all right, and then this attack happened. Which again, people always try to explain away that it could be natural, but again, it's the timing. It's always the timing of these things. Not today, Satan. Just like the praying mantis fighting the snake, never giving up. Spiritual lessons. Prayer, praying mantis. Also, that will give you the swamp boss status. Just like this capybara. And if you're wondering why none of the alligators are attacking him, this is another spiritual lesson about the Lord having his anointing, and even stuff like him saying he'll prepare a table for you in the presence of your enemies. The demons are not activated. They know that they can't mess with you. Now, a lesson on vision and illusion and not getting entrapped. Different types of vision, which I've definitely covered before. But first of all, did you know that most animals, like deer and another type of prey, they don't see orange when they look at a tiger? They actually see green, so the tiger kind of blends in with nature. Things blending in, the illusion and the power of sight. Speaking of green tigers in this lesson, He-Man has a green tiger. And in one episode, there's a whole carnival event. The entire event is an illusion, all set up to capture this green tiger. Spiritual entrapment, discernment, and any lessons. This entire Truman Show event, all fake. Only one reality was to trap the tiger. Anyway, who is the #1 satanic agent against humanity in animal form? It's the mosquito assassin. Over 1 million people offed by the mosquito assassin every year. Tell me that's not spiritual. Also, there is the Bill Gates releasing tons of the Bill Gates mosquitoes into the population. It's not like he wants to depopulate anybody or anything. Anyway, also the box jellyfish is the most venomous animals known about, that they say, amongst other wild Australian spiritual animal terrors. Well, at least He-Man's tiger wasn't this infamous for sure Nephilim tiger that hunted humans in India and killed close to 500 people over time before it was finally caught. That definitely seems spiritual. Demons can possess animals. Sounds like that one was possessed by one. Now to info sandwich back into happier fascinations. Right after I tell you about fireflies disappearing, unfortunately. Or the bee drones, again, that I told you about a long time ago. Actually admitted and happening now. Also things like this scud cloud energy dragon, possibly. Or the idea of other atmospheric jellyfish or upper air plasmoid predators. Things that we just don't know about. There also is the Edgar Cayce dog prophecy and the animal guardian phenomena. Edgar Cayce said at the end of time, dogs will start to have some sort of awareness. And there have been many instances where dogs have acted like spiritual guardians. One example, there was a story where one morning this guy's dog just would not let him go into work for some reason. It was the most weird thing he experienced.
And then later the guy's office burnt down that day, the day that the dog wouldn't let him go into work. Kind of weird. Kind of like God's Adjustment Bureau, Animal Agent Division. Sounds angelic. Speaking of spiritual, tell me that this doesn't sound spiritual here. Imagine that there's an animal that has the power of electricity, and if you touch it, you get electrocuted. Imagine that fuzzy squirrel in your backyard, you go to pet it, and you get electrocuted. Well, that's exactly what happens with these electric eels. They actually have that power, and some of their mouths do look like whole horror movies. Anyway, from the terrifying to a maybe needed safe shift, this little guy here that you've probably never seen before, the leaf sheep, sea slug. Pretty cool little friend right there. And also the leaf mimic spider, which is very rare. They also thought not to be real, but this thing apparently is real. Started with the mantis, we'll end this segment with the mantis. Just like another spiritual lesson to start your day with prayer and end your day with prayer every day. But the amazing thought that it might be fake. But again, these wild orchid flower mantises and this mantis gang, which looks like they're shooting an album cover. Look at this photo shoot of mantises right here. So many species of mantises that look amazing. And there is the esoteric thread with that as well that I have covered before. Also, God's glory and awesomeness, learning about the Creator by studying creation, and the spirit realm by observing the natural. The seen represents something unseen always. Even scientists look to animal to build technology, to reverse engineer the way that God made them, basically. Like woodpeckers for brain trauma, or axolotls for skin regeneration and healing. Technology or body stuff. By the way, the woodpecker and trauma is a new buzzword you're going to be hearing a lot of because it's part of the predictive programming and public psyops that are currently happening. Animals, whether Nephilim inspired or originally from God, it all ties into the amazing mind of God.
Alright, the Truman Show is collapsing. First gators, now bears coming to your door, in pairs. Don't open the door, by the way. And apparently, Bambi is the newest thuggest... Apparently, the deer is the newest menace to human life. Caught not only beating up this woman recently, but also in this intense fight with this dude in the backyard. Watch the animals at the end of time as this sim breaks down. Animal attacks and weird animal behavior on the rise. A lot more weird spiritual animal phenomena I'm about to cover, like the pairs of gators or bears at the door, animals learning to evolve. Or being activated by God, tech enhancement, or demon possession, which can happen, by the way. Or animals just breaking the fourth wall in general as this sim winds down. What the heck are animals anyway? Really? Wonder what would happen if you did open the door. By the way, hopefully it wasn't Boss, the legend of a bear who survived multiple train wrecks and eats other bears. Any other Nephilim hybrids or cryptids still out there possibly. Speaking of gators and supernaturally summoned armies, and the theme of spiritual intervention in war, imagine God summoning an army of 20 2,000-pound super killer crocs versus Japanese soldiers in World War II. This actually happened, and they were stalking and attacking them. Who do you think won? And then it said the vultures cleaned it all up, which reminds me biblically of the verse in Revelation about how the birds will come to feast on the bodies on the earth after the Revelation apocalypse sequence. Speaking of birds, also interesting how God uses ravens to feed Elijah. And interesting about crows and ravens, friendships with humans is kind of fascinating, which I've mentioned before. But God's supernatural provision, ravens and Elijah also using a fish to pay his and Peter's taxes. Bring the fish through, brah. Making wild animal friends is fascinating to me, and I see lots of videos about people making friends with squirrels, bees. Speaking of supernatural armies and bees, I just released a super deep dive on bees you can check out on my YouTube channel. Lots of spiritual fascination tie-ins as well. Also, bees recently, since I made the video, have been on attack. In Texas, millions of bees swarmed and killed horses and at least one human. Even undersea armies of animals, fortunately, this one usually protects us. I'm talking about dolphins, who you'll be hearing more and more about, as science keeps putting out articles trying to understand the intelligence and language of dolphins. I've told you about these sentient waterbender masters of frequency. Also fascinating is dolphin births, and women who have had dolphin-assisted births meaning in water with dolphins down below where the baby comes out, described it as a transcendental, supernatural, spiritual experience to the max. Dolphins knowing what to do and communicating in this weird, mysterious frequency language that again is being studied a lot more as some of these secrets are being revealed. But not only dolphins you've been hearing about, also mermaids a lot lately. And also I've told you in the book of Enoch, the verse about the origin of mermaids came from the women who abandoned their husbands and had relations with fallen angels. Also tons of mermaid and siren legends all throughout ancient culture, and the song of the siren. And bad things always happen, by the way. Ironically now how they're pushed as innocent to kids, which is a pattern, by the way. Check out this ancient depiction of the seductive mermaid woman stance, and it's also the Starbucks logo. Don't be seduced by the demonic sea fairy. And the entire pattern of the merfolk and the mer kingdom in general. Mer, people of the sea. Even Dagon is a mer god, the god of the ancient Philistines. And again, all over the ancient world, gods who live in the sea below, who have come out at various times in history for reasons. Pattern all over the world. Rumors of elites catching them and eating them, probably because it changes your DNA and they're looking for that certain Nephilim code. The whole you are what you eat idea. And again, the flood of Noah, it seemed like the sea life was not disturbed by that destructive reset event. So possibly lots of Nephilim creations still remain deep below. And for sure, being chained in Tartarus and other places down there, definitely. Oh, and the whole idea of the Pacific Ocean being totally blank on the maps and models they give us? Yeah, right, bruh. That area is definitely hiding something above and below the sea, for sure. Anyway, in close, in Eden, all the animals could talk to each other in a specific language as well as to man. You'll see in the 1,000 years and then beyond in the post-millennium how this is restored. You can also check out my YouTube page for a deep dive I just did on that, the 1,000 years, and details of the post-millennium and heavenly rewards and sequences that happen in the heavens and on earth. And with that idea and all this matrix oppression, maybe animals really do have the right idea. After all, we are the only species who pays to live on this planet. Or plane. Or holographic Truman Show realm about to shut down. But before it does shut down, there's one final animal and thing to look forward to, the lion, the return of the Lion King. And if life has you surrounded by lions, remember God has power over the lions in the lion's den and will send angels to shut the mouths of the lions and keep you completely safe if you trust in him. Finally, out of the death of the lion, life comes forth in Samson's riddle. Also, you can check out on my page. And with the new pope being named Leo, it seems like a lot of lion thoughts in the Matrix thought field, again relating to lion season, the return of the Lion King, Yeshua. Trust in him and overcome the lion's gates and enter into eternal life. See you next time on The Savage Truth. Oh, and watch the animals.
Stay.
Hey, listen, Bart. I may look like a dog, but I only play one here on Earth. Whoa.
If you are unable to get that close, grab a long, blunt object like a sledgehammer and wish yourself luck. If you have access to a gun, aim for its battery pack. Do this with caution. If ion batteries are pierced, they can start a self-oxidizing fire that is very hard to extinguish. As the battery packs on military-grade QRAs are armored, this may not always work. In this case, target its other weak spots, including sensors, joints, and motors. However, the likelihood of having to fight a robot dog can be greatly reduced by choosing your hideout location carefully. Stay hidden. Avoid movement during peak patrol periods. If you have followed all of the steps in this video, you could manage to survive for a long period of time.
Unicorns on crests and shields all over the world. And apparently TikTok instantly snuffs unicorn videos that I make because of hypersensitive bots that are scared of the truth. But we'll start off with M16 unicorn, Scotland, the British coat of arms having the unicorn, the United Kingdom, and again M16 Brit Intel, the Scotland crest, and it's the official national animal of that nation, and a few others. Again, it's on the coat of arms of Canada, Nova Scotia, Manitoba, Newfoundland, and others. Newfoundland, at least they're being honest. Unlike the ones who got the masonry for free, the founders of certain cities and buildings, founded on date mysteries. But anyway, the idea of the unicorn, that people would think, we should pick a fake animal to represent us. And it should look just like the same fake animal that cultures all around the world also use to represent their cultures. Also, a recent movie, To Kill a Unicorn, and they had themes in there about stuff that I just covered, which I didn't even know, and then I found this movie and saw it in there, which kind of always happens with brain field phenomena. But they had this whole plot of the unicorn horn and special abilities, which I guess you'll hear in a minute on the episode. But the death of a unicorn movie had the same themes. Ground unicorn horn, special properties, and they're also depicted as being completely fierce. The elites hunting and harvesting for immortality and cure-alls. Also having electromagnetic and electrical powers, and even the power of resurrection, which also, the cool thread, Jesus Christ and Christianity itself is symbolized by the unicorn because it's a symbol of resurrection, the white unicorn of resurrection, tying in with Jesus and Christianity. Anyway, moving away from unicorn royalty, a symbol for royalty, as opposed to the commoner donkey or mule royalty, which there actually was. There was a white mule and a mule named Senator, or a horse that Caligula also named a ruler. Plenty of animal rulers that have been named rulers of tribes or societies or having actual senator positions. Jesus coming and riding in on a donkey then, and then a horse on the future when he comes bursting out of the sky. Also interesting how a donkey has a cross on its back. Again, reflecting to Jesus. Yeshua. In fact, whole ancient lost sciences approached all of nature as some sort of spiritual lesson and what could be learned about the creator from it. And that's honestly not a bad idea. That's a whole entire lost paradigm and thinking being replaced with the school systems, the Rockefeller, DuPont school systems. So Jesus being a symbol for resurrection again here with the donkey and the cross, riding in on the cross, coming back with the horse. Random interjection, how zebras are also horses and types of horses. And in Life in the Matrix, if you look out your neighborhood window, you might actually see a zebra running by, like this. Just another day in the Matrix. Fruit stripe horse, thumbs up mode. Anyway, no one rides zebras because they're black Air Force One energy and they'll just completely attack you. There was the elite Rothschild who tried to have the zebra carriage that one time, which I guess is kind of cool, but definitely not as cool as the fold-up alchemy white mule of Jean Guillot. This cool fold-up alchemy mule that he would decant and ride it and then fold it back up. This is living quantum technology like the Norse ship that I covered before, which you'll find in a future alchemy comp that I'll be putting out. Anyway, this would be regenerated by pouring water or some type of liquid on it, decanting it, and then traveling a lot. This mule would travel many miles in one day. Similar to lots of ancient China cauldron alchemy dragon transportation accounts. Also kind of cool, the robot horse, Kawasaki robot horses and predictive programming of the future. This was again on the He-Man thread, robot horses and He-Man, all predictive programming. Science fiction actually being reality, just separated by time. They let you know and then you see it eventually in the future. The blue horse Lucifer, this demonic devil horse at the Denver NWO International Airport that actually killed its creator. Also, esoteric blue and blue horse theme, and this blue demon horse with the rider pick. But anyway, speaking of colored riders, the Red Rider, Tron, this new movie coming out, which has the Red Horseman War Mars Ares energy, even as the ultimate soldier being biblically strong as part of the trailer. Mystical horses like the Nuclevi and the Kelpie. The Nuclevi was a horse humanoid demon. Escape, find fresh water source where they can't follow is the only way of survival. Or the Kelpie, a shape-shifting spirit horse that can become human. And Cheney in human form is the only chance to get away from that one. Anyway, there is something called the Hippodrome. Hippo is not actually hippo, by the way. Hippo means horse, ironically. So the Hippodrome is like a horse racetrack, basically, where they would have horse races and stuff. Hippolytus. There are several characters in history with that name, Hippolytus, at least 3 that I know about. And this could tie in with scripted reality because all of their life and their death have to do with horses or being killed by horse accidents, which is exactly what that name Hippolytus means. Kind of interesting. Hippocampus. Again, hippo meaning horse. Hippocampus being a part of the brain. Campus like an open field or a curved bow. So this part of the brain, the hippocampus, responsible for memories. Hippocampus also literally means seahorse. Kind of interesting. Also, there is the Greek mythology about the hippocampi, which are serpent-like horse dolphins. All this ties in. Unicorns, demons, horseoids. Horses being in heaven, obviously. Jesus will be riding one. Maybe the Pegasus idea ties in. Also, finding interesting about the 4 horsemen. Next year, 2026, will be the year of the horse. Could that have to do with the 4 horsemen playing out? Again, which I've talked about. Oh yeah, and you'll either find this funny or evidence that there is no hope for humanity other than the true rider on the white horse. This video, where the horse kicks tree, farts on dog, and runs away, to the tune of 58 million views. Meanwhile, over here in Savage Truthville, fighting against AI bots, secrets of the universe, under 1,000 most of the time so far. Are we already cooked? Anyway, no need to beat a dead horse. We'll just ride off into the sunset, into the next clip.
No way you can tell me animals in this phenomena isn't spiritual. Aside from dolphins being so sophisticated they have unique whistle names, these unique frequency blasts that they communicate to each other with, and the weird historical rabbit hole that unicorns were probably real and terrible. And I'm not talking about rhinos either, more on that later. But I've been going down a spiritual animal phenomena rabbit hole that continues to prove to be satisfying. A mystifying goldmine of phenomena involving animals that seem spiritual. And show we're in the Truman Show like the Nephilim lab-created duck-billed platypus weirdo. This innocent-looking menace isn't real. Not only can it kick you and venomate you, it has no anti-venom because each venom is unique, and the venom makes you feel pain more. Also, it's a mammal that lays eggs and has no stomach. It sweats milk, glows in the dark, interacts with the electromagnetic field, and it hunts by sensing electric pulses and activity of other creatures. And aside from no stomach, it has no teeth, so it grinds up food with rocks in its mouth. Anyway, moving on from the venomous duck beaver that scientists thought was a hoax that was stitched together when they first found out about it, to the venomous paralysis turtle, a turtle that can bite you and give you paralysis. Aside from poisonous turtles, some turtles have a super violent teleportation quick-like head thrash that if you're trying to move them, they can actually bite your finger. Some can bite your fingers right off. Like the 150-pound armored tank alligator snapping turtle. That definitely could bite your finger or hand off. But still not nearly as fast as the peacock mantis shrimp punch. Which, by the way, it's none of those 3 things. Neither a peacock, a mantis, or a shrimp. Yet its punch is 50 times faster than the blink of an eye and actually heats the surrounding water around it to reach temperatures of the sun. Pound for pound packing the most punch, it also has the most sophisticated visual system of any predator on Earth. Also, the punch is so fast, it's literally faster than the blink of an eye. The only way you can see it is in slow motion. Speaking of the ocean, Life in the Matrix here on TikTok, you may have seen lots of seals joining people's kayaks or cruises just to chill. Or the terrifying rivers and swamps of water buffalo swimming right beneath you. Have you ever seen what that would look like? It would look like a huge dragon emerging from beneath you. By the way, there are super detailed accounts in history all over the place of the mega rivalry between dragons and elephants. Dragons versus trained war elephants, and the specific details about how the dragons would wrap their tail around the legs of the elephant and then attack their eyes. All fascinating warfare strategies and hidden history that's real. A time of warfare and magic technology. How about animal mind control wizards of the past by using frequency technologies, like the story of the Pied Piper? Royal bloodline knowledge, specific frequencies and tones that he could play and control the minds of the mice. Or people. Still happening today. All this warfare, magic, and technology is very Tartarian in the past. And what I find fascinating is literally putting this and Tesla plots and technology into 80s cartoons. The show's not important, but He-Man frequently has these themes. Even one episode, technology specifically called the Variable High Frequency Oscillator, which was a frequency weapon to control the minds of animals and weaponize them. Always esoteric themes, and even fighting a multi-headed underwater robot dragon to break into a lair to then fight a real dragon called the Kraken. guardians of secret places, the sword that connects to the ether, the whole ether world, the Knights Templar logo cross, and also mermen and lots of mer beings. But one of the most fascinating themes is how they talk about a population had taken over this city with great buildings and technology, and they weren't exactly sure who the builders were and how they had just found it all and they inhabited it. Sounds pretty familiar. Also, beings in stasis waiting to be awakened, beings that can just turn into orbs, like the orbs we see all the time, just turn into those orbs and fly around and then back into their human form. Flying temples was another fascinating one, as well as crystal technology, cloaked cities, statue weapons, weapons that turn people into statues or even can turn statues into living things to fight for them. Think terracotta warriors. And even certain animals being sentient and can talk, but only certain ones. Normal animals can't talk in that world. All the popular conspiracy and esoteric TikTok points from a cartoon 40 years ago. I started to wonder why in most countries you can walk through the woods and there's a chance you might see some sort of wild monkey or ape type being, but not really here in the United States. Even south of us, down in South America or Mexico, this is true. Most countries, there's some sort of monkeys. Why aren't they in the United States? Again, if you look it up, it'll tell you that Florida and Texas, there's a few populations of wild monkeys. It seems like there's some magical line that they just stopped crossing north. Although there may be Bigfoot or maybe even Yeti in Canada. Or the chance you'll see the rare, huge, mystical, sentient-like, majestic white mountain goat. Total rare find and score, and it looks like it's wise and could probably talk. All these glorious beasts are similar to the concept in the past, like if you had never seen an elephant or some sort of huge beast like a giraffe before, how amazing it would be. And even with King Solomon and Sheba in that account, there was beasts that they had never seen before. When Sheba came and she saw everything, it was a marvelous sight. And if you were wondering why you would probably think a kangaroo was a demon, I'll cover that in the future. Or why the capybara is the ultimate swamp boss, you can't touch this, MC Hammer status, G mode. Also not a demon maybe, but there is this fascinating piece of terror known as the shoebill stork. This up to no good looking 5-foot tall demon stork eats baby crocodiles. Also, I'm only halfway through my bullet point, so just like the Alaskan wood frog, I'm gonna have to freeze. But did you ever think it was weird how they just completely freeze for the entire winter and then thaw out like it's all good and start living again like nothing happened? I'm gonna jump right back in next time with the ferocious and mystical unicorn being real, and tons more just like this. Stay mysterious. Peace. If you get happy that the prospect unicorns are real, or you live in the Truman Show where it's possible that hammerhead sharks might rain down on your head, or intrigued at the prospect that you might be able to make a new wild squirrel friend with the arm move. You know, speaking squirrel with the wave motion with your arm. You know you're gonna try it. Or if you wonder if your dog might be an Anunnaki descendant, then this is the goldmine rabbit hole for you. Spiritual animal phenomena, back for more. Therianthropy is a fancy word for shapeshifting. It's used throughout folklore, mythology, and hidden history about beings that can shapeshift. Nephilim descendants and humans that aren't humans, and it's based off that word therion, which you find, it's a Greek word, all throughout Revelation. John is constantly seeing these chimera-like beasts, which is what therion means, beast, and he doesn't know how to describe any of them. They're all different pieces of different things. He's calling them all therion. Some of these wild exotic therions have even been on display for super elite bargaining and underworld activities, similar to the elite behind the scenes auctioning in a recent Jurassic Park for these huge exotic therions. These not supposed to exist Nephilim genetic therions and a whole underworld market for that. They even tied in with the whole elites eating mermaids trend to assist in powers, lifespan, or the shifting element of the therianthropy. All core tie in with the genetics being Nephilim based. Some humans were even believed to be turned into animals, which is a rabbit hole for another time. But the unicorn is another one of these creatures from the past, a mythical beast that was also known to be in the palaces of the elites, or rare places in the wild. Some had red fur, big feet, multicolored horns, were temperamental, and had amazing leaping abilities. Even having shock-absorbing magical horns where they could leap off cliffs, land on the horns, and then just be fine. Some were white with purple heads and rainbow-like horns. Also, they were known for outwitting emperors, which is kinda cool. By the way, there are actual flying horses in heaven that the Bible talks about. Jesus will be coming back on one of them. Probably what the whole Pegasus idea was about. Also, I just did a video about the 4 horsemen you can check out on my page. But the Greeks wrote that the unicorns still lived in certain places in India. Stories and art all over the world, multicultural, about unicorns, and then also even super detailed accounts about how to catch them. Also, bestiaries and medieval bestiaries, catalogs of strange creatures as a fascinating rabbit hole. Some even being animal-human hybrids, or even weird humans like the Blemmies, who pretty much have no head but their face is in their chest. But aside from Greek and Indian accounts, unicorns appear in early Mesopotamian artwork, as well as China and others. also again being hunted for their magical horns and the horns' special properties, that the elites used to drink out of them and do other things with. Even ground unicorn horn was a special hot commodity for the elites, and it was often faked. Swindlers hustling on the black market with that fake unicorn horn. At least the black market hustlers of back in the day used to have some sense of mythicality, because they used to use narwhal horns to fake the unicorns. Narwhals being a kind of mythical beast being known as the unicorns of the sea. I wonder if they know any of the dolphins' whistle names. Another intimidating but fascinating mystery is the orca coin flip, meaning 50-50 chance, not maybe mathematically, but what will happen when you see them, because they're known for destroying ships, or a lot of times they're known for giving gifts and bringing offerings to humans and trying to be friends with them. Many times have been documented trying to feed humans, and scientists trying to figure out why. Hopefully they'll recognize your gangster and just bring you gifts and instantly try to be your friend. Also, orcas have been observed having salmon hats as fashion trends, wearing salmons on their head for fashion, mainly amongst adolescent females, which then later changed to tuna hats for a period of time. But now it looks like salmon hats are back in fashion, so it's all good. Guess it's 90s rerun time for the orcas as well. Nostalgia for the orcas makes me feel good for some reason, just like this Mario fish tank that you could maybe have a mini orca in. Don't do that. Maybe, but one thing that's definitely for sure is when you leave the crib, definitely throw on your baller baby hippo boss hat in case the Matrix rains down hammerhead sharks on you today. Which actually happened recently at a golf course, and by the way, this baby hippo face you're looking at is your new life coach. Accept it. Amongst other actual real threats to watch out from the air is the raging Australian magpie. On camera was this incredibly vicious eyeball attack. This bird appeared so quick, attacked the eyeball, and then was out before the lady even knew what was happening. And I was selective with the picture, because it looks nasty. Also, pelicans and birds just falling all out of the sky, probably for harp-like frequency warfare. Cattle being struck by lightning in mass, about 30 of them, dropping at once. Mega lightning strikes and lightning storms. Does that tie in with the new Mountain Dew predictive can programming pattern, with the sweet lightning flavor? Also with the Thunder and the Eagles being the two championship winners in the NFL and NBA. Thunder and Eagles, again, eyes to the skies. Aerial-based predictive programming. Also, the Thunder Moon, which traditionally known as the Buck Moon, but they gotta throw the thunder in there now. Also actually expecting these huge thunder and lightning storms. Amongst other things falling from the sky are these metal balls, and that whole mystery kind of reminds me of the Truman Show fake star falling down, which was serious if you were paying attention. Whole sim shutting down like activity, just like the Southern Ocean current reversal. For the first time, the current of the ocean just going the other way. Supposedly due to underwater volcano activity, again with the simulation shutdown sequence. Signs, the Hebrew word ot. Also the crazy San Antonio flood, which is supposed to be not like others. And this crazy Las Vegas windstorm damage, where miles there was tons of these light poles down just from wind. Pretty intense. As the sim shuts down more and more, watch the animals and nature. It'll be one of the indicators. Are all animals NPCs? In the Old Testament, it talks about the condition of animals when they die and how they go down into the earth. And it talks about how man having a solar spirit which can rise upwards. Jesus talking about the spirit being born again. What happens to animals if they don't have a soul or a spirit? Are they just NPCs that are programmed? The programming seems so sophisticated though, even with language with things like prairie dogs, which of the observable languages that humans are actually able to decode, prairie dogs have the most sophisticated language, even having adjectives not only for humans, but even for the shirt colors that humans wear. Again, lots of animal languages that humans are not able to decode yet, but AI probably will or already has. Random but exactly related segue, is your dog a bloodline descendant of the Anunnaki? In the official lore of Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo is now a member of the Anunnaki bloodline. There's a whole episode about how Scooby learns that he's actually an Anunnaki descendant, and how the Anunnaki are returning, and most of them are friendly, but some of them aren't, and how they don't have bodies so that they inhabit animals. It's a whole storyline involving Nibiru, bloodlines, and physical Anunnaki being imprisoned on Earth underground under a cove. These are actual screenshots from the show that I've been showing you. Can your dog or pet talk? Can they? Well, I guess Scoob is related to the Gurta-Blilu, which are the Sumerian scorpion men from the Epic of Gilgamesh. Also probably the exact same ones returning in Revelation 9, the ones that come back when the portal is opened, with the scorpion tails that attack humanity. Shifting from the Locust Demon King boss into the Nuclear Chicken boss. The very much real British defense project of Blue Peacock, which was the final measure against invasion. The nuclear chicken boss was inside of a nuclear warhead on an 8-day timer, and it was up to the chicken to set it off 8 days later. Aside from the nuclear chicken boss, there was the giant rooster dragons of the past. And there is this gangster harpy eagle, which kind of reminds me of the Michael the Archangel of birds. But speaking of final bosses, remember that Yeshua is the ultimate final boss of everything, that will help you rise above the storms, fly high, and endure through any storm of life facing you. Like Isaiah said, you can mount up on eagle's wings and be strengthened by the Lord, so get up and fly. Oh, by the way, bees are fish, if you didn't know. That's official in the state of California, which doesn't surprise me. Anyways, stay fly.
One of the first poems or songs in the Bible is the Song of the Bee. It's sung by Deborah, whose name literally means bee. She sings the Song of the Bee. John the Baptist lived exclusively off of honey, and his birth was divine. Honey also being the only food that insects make that humans eat. Honey also is basically immortal because it never goes bad. Kind of reminds me of manna. Lots of properties with honey. Also, bee pollen, royal jelly, propolis, and supernatural, basically, bee creations. Manuka honey, being extremely medicinal, an antibiotic study showed basically nothing could stand up to it. There is the infamous red honey, hallucinogenic honey, and also, aside from that, the interesting use of hallucinogenic honey in warfare. People sabotaging their enemy, basically, with hallucinogenic honey. Also, there's special hallucinogenic honey that people risk their lives still to get today in rare places. And more spiritual ritual DMT-like bee priestess usage where she had the sacred rights to the hallucinogenic honey in their rituals. Apollo, Oracle of Delphi, all of these having bee and honey rituals, and the temple was said to be built by bees. And again, Osiris, buried in the bee mansion. All honey is different, depends on the flower and region, and aside from honey basically being immortal and linked to immortality, there is legend of a special honey, a different kind of honey that's a sacred elixir, fountain of life type legend, in hidden societies and bloodlines still retain the knowledge. Apollo being the first beekeeper, Pharaoh the beekeeper. Also, honey-filled sarcophaguses with pharaohs, and even Alexander the Great did this as a preservation ritual. Honey's hidden mystery usage, some sort of spiritual alchemy use or tech, something more than we know today, more than it can do. Also, real honey, by the way, store-bought is a lot of fake. They did testing, and a lot of the honey from stores were fake, Trader Joe's being one of the main ones that had real honey. So with the immortality thread, real honey does actually lengthen telomeres and has tons of medicinal properties, as well as the frequency buzz that you're listening to now, healing the brain and body. So bees were kind of good to have around.
Warning. Avoid faux spirituality bee videos, or in general, where gurus say bees represent 2 or 3 positive generic adjectives with no background. Now, stay tuned to the savage truth for the riveting conclusion to this program.
Apis mellifera scutellata, aka the killer bee. Ancient Egyptians believed bees were the servants of the gods. They carved beekeeping instructions inside the chambers of the pyramids. An individual bee could not survive without the hive, just as humanity could not survive without the bees. We all links in the same chain.
Reverse evolution theory. They taught you that man came from monkey, but I bet they didn't teach you that certain men actually became monkeys. Now, obviously there was a creation, but the book of Yasher and Enoch allude to certain things, like how men were changed into animals as a judgment for the Tower of Babel. Monkeys and monkey-type species was a certain type of these. Also, obviously, Nephilim, Bigfoot, giant tie-ins. If you haven't figured it out, Bigfoot legends might tie into this, or just giant, hairy, fallen angel offspring. Also, reverse evolution is that certain women actually became mermaids or sirens. This was a judgment for choosing fallen angels and abandoning their husbands. Imagine this for a second. One of God's major judgments is turning women into sirens and mermaids. Fast forward a couple thousand years, and the Matrix is conned to teach their most precious daughters to imitate mermaids and sirens. They are imitating and agreeing with the judgment of God taken on these beings, and that's who they're being conned into imitating. Also, if you haven't figured it out, Beauty and the Beast is this exact Genesis 6 storyline. Just look at the imagery and it's obvious. The age-old tale of the Genesis 6 fallen angels and their offspring, the giant Bigfoot-like hybrids that mated with women. Also, some of the modern Bigfoot lore is associated with orbs, portals, and technology. All starting to make sense now. On a side note, even this Guy Langor looked like it might have been human at one point in time. Certain animals just appear to have a sentience or a remnant, something in their genetic code, or they could have been some of these beings that were actually turned into animals. The whole old world being filled with that lore about people being turned into animals or other things. And again, Disney is a major part of this psyop. Look at the Disney parent trauma or something involving parents that every Disney character went through, and also the Disney princess order. They all have personality disorders that they are training children with. Speaking of programming, if you haven't realized it, everybody is programmed, and they're just a vessel for mind viruses to repeat and amalgamate everybody else into what they believe. I'd say the only exception to this is waking up to the programming, which is what the Word of God does. The truth will set you free. You recognize the programming of this matrix and start to see it as it is. Also, watching AI get programmed might be the closest we can understand right now to how we are programmed. By the culture, by the beast system automatons. Anyway, speaking of programming Genesis 6 and Beauty and the Beast, there is also bestiaries. Medieval or old world bestiaries include some of these beings that Nephilim Labs probably created, or even remnants of, again, judgments from God from the reverse evolution theory. One example of these past or still could be out there special creations is the Serenian Hind. Certain gods or beings, like Artemis in this case, created a special animal just for them. Not like other animals, but it was a spiritual, supernatural, powerful, and had special abilities type of an animal. This was Artemis' sacred creation, the Serenian Hind. In the labors of Hercules, there's an interesting story about it all. What still exists out there? And aside from reverse evolution, the Bible actually mentions some of these spirit creatures, spirit animal beings that are lost in translation. I'll cover that next time. But remember, you are the image bearer of God. You are created special. See you next time on The Savage Truth. What's the wildest opening line you've ever heard on TikTok? How about this one? Real killer unicorn bunnies and serpentine horse dolphins. The Almirage and the Hippocampi are two supposed real mythical animals from legend, mythology, and bestiaries. While those two aren't in the Bible, there are 4 spirit creatures or 4 spirit animals that the Bible does mention. All over the old world and other legends and writings, and even possibly maybe hidden somewhere in the current world. The 4 spirit creatures mentioned in the Bible, number 1, the Lamia, which is the Lilith spirit. Mentioned in Isaiah, this is a cannibalistic night demon serpent woman. Sounds similar to a succubus kinda. Also kinda reminds me of number 2, also mentioned in Isaiah and around the world, the siren. Alluring voices leading sailors into shipwreck or destruction as traps. Alluring voices like the modern singers of the Matrix, luring people into traps and their souls. Sirens known for seduction and destruction. Also, sirens are mermaids, which I just did a video about reverse evolution, how women became mermaids and men became monkeys. That reverse evolution theory. Check out my last TikTok. But you see the Starbucks logo is the siren. Also connected to temples of pleasure and seduction. Also interesting, the word siren is used on police sirens, and sirens being known for traps. Even if you type in siren on your emoji, one of the police sirens will pop up. Or if you're watching movies, it'll say sirens wailing anytime cop cars fly by. Sirens wailing. Traps. That's just an interesting side note. Moving on to number 3. Number 3, the griffin or the griffon. Mentioned in Leviticus, I believe, chapter 11. This is a lion, eagle, dragon type of a being. Connected to dragons and sphinxes all over the world. Guardians and wisdom associations, and even the sentient 5th dimensional being in Men in Black 3 who gave the arcane net to humanity. His name was Griffin. All tying in. Number 4, the unicorn is actually mentioned, and legends all over the world real, and I've covered this before. You can check out my page, Savage Truth, on YouTube. The unicorn also was a symbol for Christ and Christianity, believe it or not. Along with other fascinations, again, you can find on my page, but bestiaries and things like the Bonnicon. Tons of the old world and bestiaries had the idea that everything was created by God and had a lesson to it, such as the pelican. Basically how it tore apart its breast to feed its young, and other lessons in how all of nature just points to God in somehow. Aside from these 4, there's more as well, lost in translation, more interesting things in demon species, which you can find on Unpod, a podcast on my YouTube page. All lost in translation and lies of the Matrix trying to mind control everybody. Good old beast system. Anyway, while you're on the lookout for killer unicorn bunnies and the hippocampi, serpentine horse dolphins, just remember, you have the power to tread scorpions and snakes. Timberland waffle print on their face, and the power of Yeshua by the blood and his name. Peace out.
The bottom line, the mind of God, the most mysterious thing ever. Mysterious clues all over the world, spiritual phenomena and signs. Speaking of signs, someone anonymous left this as a message to remember. This lion pierced through for us here in Colorado. Says, I have been where you fear to be. I have seen what you fear to see. I have done what you fear to do. All these things I have done for you. Sounds like Yeshua to me. Inside every one of us has a heart that thinks we could be that mystical beast tamer to extend our hand out, and that they would just instantly understand us and make that connection, that deep ingrained feeling. Is it really the connection to God that we are all longing for? The end. Or is it?
Agents of the Matrix only exist to make me like them. I won't be like them. I won't be like them. Faith is what you make it, only exists to be more like him.